Welcome to SWO, Strange World Observer, with your host, John. Hey, you strangelings out there, this is John, and welcome to the Strange World Observer. Question of today is, why won't Donald Trump denounce racism? So if you like what you hear, you see here on the Strange World Observer, make sure that you hit the like button, you share it, you hit the notification bell when you subscribe so that you get our videos when we upload them. We have taken a couple weeks off. I've got two kids in different school systems. One's in college and one's in high school. So we had two different fall breaks this year. And that being that, I took the time off with them. So anyway, let's get into the program, and I hope you enjoy it.
Have you ever heard this president say one negative thing about white supremacists? Have you ever heard it?
I totally disavow the Ku Klux Klan. I totally disavow David Duke.
You wouldn't even condemn David Duke, for God's sake.
Well, you've got David Duke just joined, a bigot, a racist, a problem. I mean, this is not exactly the people you want in your party.
I got back in this race because of what happened in Charlottesville. People coming out of the woods carrying torches, their veins bulging, and a young woman gets killed resisting the hate and violence, and the president gets asked to comment on it. What's he say? He says they're very fine people on both sides.
And you had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
Are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups?
Neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. Racism is evil, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists. Condemn the evil of anti-Semitism and hate. Our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy. There be no tolerance for anti-Semitism in America or for any form of religious or racial hatred or prejudice. We must never ignore the vile poison of anti-Semitism or those who spread its venomous creed. How many times do I have to reject? I've rejected David Duke. I've rejected the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan. From the time I'm 5 years old, I rejected them.
David Duke is saying to his supporters and followers, vote for Donald Trump. White supremacists are saying, vote. Do you want those votes?
No, I don't want them, and I don't want him to say it. I don't like any group of hate. Hate groups are not for me.
You've got David Duke just joined, a bigot, a racist, a problem.
David Duke endorsed me? Okay. All right. I disavow, okay?
Let me be clear again. I condemn the KKK. I condemn all white supremacists. I condemn the Proud Boys.
Trump's campaign told CBS News this publication is repulsive and their views do not represent the tens of millions of Americans who are uniting behind our campaign.
I'm not looking
Would you repudiate David Duke?
Sure. When we looked at it and looked at the question, I disavowed David Duke. So I disavowed David Duke all weekend long on Facebook, on Twitter, and obviously it's never enough.
I totally disavow the Ku Klux Klan. I totally disavow David Duke, Ku Klux Klan, which obviously I'm going to disavow.
You want white supremacists to vote for you?
No, I don't. Not at all. How many times do I have to reject? Love for America requires love for all of its people. When we open our hearts to patriotism, there is no room for prejudice, no place for bigotry, and no tolerance for hate.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure. But based on the events that took place over the weekend in Charlottesville, Virginia, I would like to provide the nation with an update on the ongoing federal response to the horrific attack and violence that was witnessed by everyone. I just met with FBI Director Christopher Wray and Attorney General Jeff Sessions. The Department of Justice has opened a civil rights investigation into the deadly car attack that killed one innocent American and wounded 20 others. To anyone who acted criminally in this weekend's racist violence, you will be held fully accountable. Justice will be delivered. As I said on Saturday, we condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America. And as I have said many times before, no matter the color of our skin, we all live under the same laws. We all salute the same great flag. And we are all made by the same Almighty God. We must love each other, show affection for each other, and unite together in condemnation of hatred, bigotry, and violence. We must rediscover the bonds of love and loyalty that bring us together as Americans. Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans. We are a nation founded on the truth that all of us are created equal. We are equal in the eyes of our Creator. We are equal under the law, and we are equal under our Constitution. Those who spread violence in the name of bigotry strike at the very core of America.
So I'm gathering by now you've kind of realized that Donald Trump has actually denounced racist, KKK, racial hate groups, bigotry of any shape or size, going clear back to 2000 before he was even a candidate. In 2000, he denounced David Duke as becoming part of the Republican Party, saying that, you know, if that's what you want to be known as a racist, but that he has no real place in the Republican Party. So there was a little thing I wanted to talk about here, and it's this idea of Donald Trump, particularly around Charlottesville. So the Saturday that this happened, what you find is this coming up in the Twitterverse. So we see that it says here that I'm going to try to use my mouse here, but Donald Trump isn't speaking the same language in his first tweet in Charlottesville. They called it vague. All right. So we all must be united and condemn all that hate stands for. There's no place for this kind of violence in America. Let's come together as one. And then the second tweet basically calls the events of Charlottesville sad. So he's tagged because he didn't condemn KKK. He didn't condemn everybody that was racist at that very first tweet. But yet, when we see that Joe Biden pretty much gets away with it, and that's where we get this double standard. So this was out of the USA Today, and it was this idea that when is Sleepy Joe? This is after the George Floyd riots, and it gives you a kind of a guideline of dates and stuff. When will Sleepy Joe or Slow Joe? When is he going to criticize the anarchists, thugs, and agitators, Antifa? When is he going to suggest bringing up the National Guard in badly run and crime-infested Democratic cities and states? Trump tweeted August 30th. So this is going back to August when we had already at least several months moving from the 25th of May through the end of August. So June, July, all of August. So 3 months, over 90 days of riots, violence, burning down of towns and cities. All this is going on. And what was Joe's response to it all? Well, he says first statement from him was that the people have a right to be, in fact, angry and frustrated, and more violence and more violence hurting more people isn't going to answer the question. Very generic, very non-committal on what it is, just a generic violence statement. At least Trump, when he first denounced Charlottesville, said it had to do with hate. And so, and then another night, he actually says, back in, and this is on May 31st, burning down, that protesting police brutality is right and necessary in American response, but burning down communities, needless destruction is not. Biden wrote, violence that endangers lives is not. Violence that guts and shutters businesses that serve the community is not. And then on June 2nd, he says there's no place for violence, no place for looting and destroying property and burning churches and destroying businesses. And these comments are coming from him that are generic. He's not doing anything against the BLM that is also rioting and doing things. Now, BLM also protested. We're not talking, there's two different things when we talk about a protest and a riot. Protests are peaceful. Protests were sit-ins. When you talk about the civil rights movement, they were marches that yes, I will admit that there was violence perpetrated upon them, but they did not perpetrate violence. And then you run into this idea that violence is just not to be done, but he won't claim who's doing it. He won't put a moniker on it. When we have had video evidence that shows Antifa is engaged in it, Antifa is not an ideal, and we're going to get into that one in another time, is not an idea or an ideal. It is an actual organization. So he won't, even to this day, he has not denounced Antifa. He has not denounced the violent acts of BLM. He has not denounced any organized group other than what they call the right, KKK and any kind of white supremacist, which I don't understand how that's the right, but that's okay. So what the question I think we're really left with is, when will they do it? When will not only Joe Biden denounce Antifa and BLM for the violent parts of it, but when will the press start being authentic? You had people on Fox News, Chris Wallace and John Roberts, both have covered the denouncements of Donald Trump. Both of them, on a public stage, reversed course to join the narrative of the general news media. So when will they get on board and actually admit that Trump has done this many times before he was a presidential candidate and since being a presidential candidate and being the president of the United States? So anyway, that's a little bit. I know you're going to realize, hey, I got trolled with the Trump doesn't announce white supremacy, but I think somebody's got to put the truth out there in some way, shape, or form. But I hope you've enjoyed the Strange World Observer. I am John, your host, and remember to hit the like, subscribe, and share this video. Have a wonderful day, and may the facts be ever on your side.
Thank you for listening to the Strange World Observer podcast. If you like what you heard, hit the like button. Feel free to share the cast with others who are seeking a different voice. The podcast has been produced by yours truly. Music by Polyphonetic on Luberman.com. Again, thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day.